right. Hello, everybody. This is 353021. This is our 5.3 LM7 that we're going to test today. This is out of 2004 Suburban, I think. It's got 140,000 miles, and this is a drive-by-wire engine sold as a level 3 package, which means you get all the goodies like fuse block, PCM. Because this is drive-by-wire, you also get a tack module with the harness and throttle pedal. So you get the whole shebang. I think personally, getting one with a drive-by-wire like this with everything already on it is the way to go, because you can put that pedal wherever you want to. Let's see, this one was awesome because I personally pulled this out of a vehicle. Normally I have suppliers that pull engines for me, but this one I knew ran, and it was just out of a rusty truck that the frame was rusted out on, and the engine was great. So what I did is tore it down to just a long block and degreased it, cleaned it, put it all back together. So it's got new like water pump gaskets on it, stuff like that. Changed the oil filter, stuff like that. But for the most part, we never had to break into this. We didn't, besides pulling the oil pan and checking the pickup and checking a couple bearings to make sure everything was good. On the bottom end, we have not taken this apart to let any of the magic out, which is awesome. And you will hear this thing run and you will understand why. And I'm really glad that we did it that way. But I'm pretty excited about this one because it runs so smooth, and it's going to make a great engine for somebody. So we're going to test it now. So this is a 706 head Gen 3 engine. It's very standard cylinder head for these. This has a full harness on it that's not been cut. So it has the plugs for a 4L60. You can easily rewire it for a 4L80. I can also do that for you if you'd like. And then this has also been set up for a swap to make it easier for you to get going. So it's got all the fuses in the fuse block that you need and not really any that you don't need. And the rear O2 plugs and stuff have been deleted. Some of the emission stuff like EGR, this one didn't have it to begin with, but like evap and stuff has all been removed. We've put in our inlet air temp sensor here, so there's no mass airflow sensor to worry about. That's all done. It's got a new set of O2 sensors in it, brand new O2 sensors, and this thing runs awesome. We're gonna get started. Enough talking. Shut up and run the engine, Brian. So we're gonna hit our fuel pump. Get this guy started here. So on our gauges, we've got our coolant temp and our air inlet temp that you'll be able to see there, along with the map, which is going to be manifold vacuum. Let's see, get this guy going. There we go. We've got our oil pressure set up to work on this one. Our wideband, that WB-AEM, that is not functional. We don't have the wideband hooked up, but the rest of this should work out and show you what's going on. Here we go. Nice and smooth. Lifters are super nice and quiet. I love how quiet this one is. No smoke. No belt squeaking or anything like that. You can see oil pressure here. Oil pressure is 38. So pretty standard. This one, when it warms up, it's going to be about 32, 33 pounds of oil pressure, which is great. So for one of these used engines, you can see alternator is charging 14.2 volts right there. This does come with a 4L60 flex plate. If you're going to run a different transmission, I have other flex plates available, like new ones on the shelf. Everything's nice and dry. See nothing leaking on the floor. Everything's nice and dry down there. This thing's awesome. It's so quiet. So 115 degrees on the coolant temp. You can see here our O2 sensors are already switching back and forth. We're not even in closed loop yet. They're just working off of the short-term fuel trims, but that's what you want to see there. And it's pulling 30 kPa on the map. That's very standard. And what else can I show you? 36 pounds of oil. This one's set to idle at 650. Normally I have them set at 700, but this one just idles so nice that I left it kind of stock. I didn't really bring it up too much. So this has a return style fuel system. So you've got your supply and your feed, or your return right there. So this goes back to your tank. It doesn't have to be any sort of pressurized, rated fuel line. It can just be a regular like a 3/8 fuel line, or 5/16 even. You can run on that. This you want to try and do at least a 3/8, and it's got to be fuel injected rated line. This is going to come from your fuel pump, and it's got to be able to supply at least 58 psi. And this has a regulator on it right there, which cuts fuel pressure to the right amount and then sends the rest back to the tank. So you don't have to run an additional fuel pressure regulator, which makes this a pretty easy setup to use. If you have a returnless style, so if you have no return, then you do have to run a separate regulator, which isn't a big deal, but it's just kind of nice. There's one less part you have to buy. So this thing runs nice and smooth. It's barely vibrating. It's just, this one's awesome. Well, it's maybe not the prettiest engine. It's not going to win any beauty contests, but for my stuff, I really don't care. You can dress it up however you want to. A lot of guys paint blocks and put different intakes on it and kind of make them look all good, and they turn out looking awesome. But just right out of the truck here, you know, we got all the dirt and the grime and the grease off of these, just so we can see what we're working with. So it's sanitary. It's just, you know, not the prettiest. 150 degrees. We'll see how warm we can get this thing without it taking forever. It's not a super hot day like we've had. It's probably mid 70s, so it might take a little bit. You can see we're in closed loop now, CL normal, that's closed loop, which means that it's using long-term fuel trims to trim fuel based on what it's reading off the O2 sensors. You can see those O2 sensors, that purple and blue line there, going back and forth between 0 and 1. It's basically 0 volts to 1,000 millivolts. Everything else is nice and steady. You've got spark there. This white line here is spark, so that's your ignition advance. So it moves around quite a bit to help control idle and make it as smooth as possible. That's one of the benefits of EFI. Is it can, this coil on plug, it can vary that ignition timing to help adjust and keep your idle steady. So this one comes with the alternator, power steering pump, and obviously a water pump. If you want the AC bracket to run AC, it's a factory bracket, so a lot of times it hits frame rails on the passenger side. But if you want one, I can get you one. I've got plenty of those. That would mount right down here, in this area right here. So we have those available. $172. Wall pressure still looking good. But you hear it. Can't complain about that. So, not sure how much else to tell you here. 180 degrees, I don't want this to take forever. Another look at the ground here. Nothing's leaking. Everything's pretty clean and dry. Power steering pump's nice and quiet. Love this thing. All right, I'm gonna shut it down because there's no real reason to keep going. Go ahead and stop this here. Shut this guy off. So when we test these before we take the video, I run it a bunch of different times, and that's how we actually figure out, if it needs one thing or another. And like this one, it needed a water pump gasket. So then we go ahead and change out what we need to change out and get everything working right. Sometimes sensors don't work, but we do a handful of heat soak runs where we'll get it up to operating temperature, make sure that thermostat opens. And generally it's 195-ish to 200 is when they open, and they'll kind of reach steady state. So we'll do that a few different times and make sure everything is good. We don't have any leaks when things are up at nice and hot and at pressure. So that's no different on this one. This is what we do on all of our engines. And this one's awesome. It's ready to go to a good home, go in somebody's hot rod or cruiser or fun off-road truck or something. So I'm going to get this pulled off the run stand, put some labels on it, get the ship loose parts boxed up, and get it ready to go. Thanks for watching.